Welcome to the Smart Charge by Ridergy podcast. This is Claudio founder and CEO of Ridergy. This is your show to learn about all things energy management and smart charging innovation for electric vehicles and fleets. Today, I'm joined by Orlin Radev, CEO and founder of Ampeco, the EV charging platform or backend or charge point management system, as you want to call it, powering large-scale networks worldwide. Since announcing a 26 million Series B in November 24, bringing a total funding to over 42 million, Ampeco has scaled to 180 clients across 60 markets on its hardware-agnostic or CPP platform. Ampeco's footprint keeps accelerating from 62,000 managed charge points in early 2023 to close to 200,000 today. And marquee utilities like E.ON operating across 11 European countries on the platform. We'll talk with Orlin about his serial entrepreneur experience, how he scaled so fast, what his take is on the future of the EV market, what makes his software unique, and what's next for smart charging. Let's get started. Okay, Orlin, nice to have you here. You just arrived, I think, to Berlin, right?
Yeah, just flew in and right away I came here to talk to you.
How long does it take from Sofia to Berlin?
It's 2 hours, so it's not far, but still, I mean, you have to take the time for the airport as well. So.
Yeah. And this time, I think you made it sometimes with an electric vehicle to Berlin, and this time you came by plane though. Right?
Yeah, it's much faster with the plane. you figure. I've made it with an EV. Last year I came for the conference with an EV, and it took me. I had to sleep at a hotel actually, but I slept in a hotel in Budapest for 2 hours. Because the way I planned it, I would have had to arrive there at around 10 p.m. I spent like 8 hours on a border.
Oof.
Yeah, it was awful. But
border control.
From this year, by the way, no such border control as long as I don't go through Serbia, which I went last time. So
so the EU.
From this year, Bulgaria is now part of the Schengen. So as long as I go
Just
through Romania.
So before it was not.
Before it was only for flights. So from this year, it's the actual physical borders. So if I go through Romania, then I wouldn't be waiting at the border for 8 hours.
That's good. Yeah, for any EV driver out there, good to know.
Yeah, by the way, I don't know, maybe EVs actually have a benefit in this case, because I mean, you're not spending that much of energy just standing there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you follow the electro trucker a bit, or if you know about him. He's like moving throughout Europe with his electric truck. And then he went all the way through Romania, so from Germany to Romania to Turkey. And he was also showing the border control, especially if you need to transport stuff. It was like almost a day, I think, of waiting between Turkey and
yeah, these borders really can take some time, especially if you're transporting something with a truck. Yeah.
So, anyways, it's not about that today. Before we get into Ampeco and really in the deeds of the industry and the EV industry, can you share us a little bit about yourself? How would you introduce yourself and what's your background, so to say?
Well, depending on who's asking, I would either say I'm an entrepreneur or I would say I'm a product guy. But maybe I'm more of a product guy that has turned entrepreneur. I've been building software products initially for my own ventures and for other startups and for enterprises ever since I finished high school. So this is how I see myself, as a builder, as someone that solves usually a business challenge with a software product.
Yeah. I learned that you already built something in high school. So how was the start really for you to build? Where did it come from? Have you ever thought about that?
Well, I think this is a very classical story. I started with solving a problem that I experienced firsthand. I was really into games and I wanted to play with my friends, but we didn't have broadband internet. So I started an internet service provider and together with actually my co-founder and CTO of Ampeco. And he was then in college, I was in high school, and we started this company. We sold it in like 9 months, mostly because we started it in January. and I was in the 11th grade, so not the last one, but the one before that. So by September, I had to decide: am I going to do a business or am I going to finish high school? And high school dropout doesn't sound like a great start in life. I mean, college dropouts. I mean, this plays out well for some people in Silicon Valley, but I mean, high school dropout didn't sound like a great start. So we sold the company, but I was hooked on entrepreneurship, and quickly after that, I found a way to continue doing this, and I've co-founded probably around 10 companies before Ampeco. But yeah, for the longest time, it was the one that I had for the longest time was a software development company where we mostly built the products for other startups, and by working with them, we became co-founders of some of those. And this has been an exciting journey before Ampeco, which is now our idea for the past 7 years, something that we are building of our own.
Interesting. So you then after your high school decided to study like something like computer engineering, or what was the
network? I was studying network engineering.
Telecommunications sort of.
Yeah, exactly. But networking, I didn't go far. I mean, I studied this for 2 years, and then I decided I'm not doing this. I also tried programming. By that time, Alex, my co-founder, he was working at a software development company, and I went and had an internship with him for 3 months. Tried to become a developer, and I figured I won't be a developer. I mean, I like what developers do, but I want them to do it for me, but I'll not be the one developing things. And eventually I switched to my studies to management, and this is what I graduated from college. But yeah, I've been excited about building software products, only I don't want to be the one writing the code.
But you have the ability to write. Did you ever write before, or is it?
No. I mean, I tried, and I decided it's not for me. So I've been always writing the specifications, but someone else is actually building it.
And the co-founder that you were working with, he's more of a coder type.
Yeah, he's a I don't know, the best engineer I know, and a software engineer, and he's always been building the stuff that I come up with.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good person to know.
Yeah.
And you then, how did you then create this company the software development one? Was it during the studies, or was it then after?
It was actually after the studies, and it was both of us with my co-founder. We worked at another company, not together. I mean, he worked for another company, I worked for another company. But we started it because we really wanted to build a software company where we build our own software product. We didn't have the idea though, so we figured we'll gather the team, and we'll be building someone else's ideas until we come up with one. And it took us like 10 years.
Oh.
So in 10 years, I mean, we were still building someone else's ideas. And I mean, it was amazingly exciting, don't get me wrong. And I learned a lot. So we both learned a lot. But it went for far too long before we actually ended up deciding, well, we are just building someone else's ideas. At some point, we need to decide, what are we building in this world? And this happened 7 years ago, and Ampeco is the
result.
Yeah, the result of that.
And just to give a flavor, what type of ideas were you working on before Ampeco?
Yeah, as I said, it was someone else's idea, so they were in very different sectors. Like, for example, we built warehouse management software. We've built one of the exciting things we built was actually like an online farmers market. It was, or at least it looks to the end consumer as an online farmers market, but it was more of a logistics platform that made it possible to source produce from very small farms and get them delivered to customers directly in the city. And it was a lot of work. I got involved in this way more than just the product. At some point I actually managed this company. It was amazing, exciting. Got me introduced to sustainable food, producing food in a sustainable way into smaller farms and what they struggle with. And yeah, it was very exciting. But again, it was someone else's idea which I got excited for, and I helped build the product that makes it possible. But eventually, it wasn't mine.
Yeah, nice. And how did you discover then the market need for Ampeco? How was that inception, so to say?
Well, interesting story. I mean, I always thought I was going to build a software product. So at some point, after 10 years building someone else's idea, I said, that's enough. Let's put a pause on this and decide what we're going to build. And the decision I came up with was actually that I'm going to run a car sharing business. So not software at all, or at least, not pure software. I got the idea by, I was visiting Munich, and I got to rent a BMW. I don't know what was the service then.
Like Share Now or something, yeah.
Yeah, but it was before Share Now. But anyway, I liked the idea. It wasn't electric, by the way. It was just the idea of this shared economy where you don't own the vehicle, you get to use it, it gets used by multiple people, it doesn't stand idle. And so I really like this, and I said, well, this sounds like something that I would do. Our previous endeavor with the farm to table thing, it was kind of in the shared economy as well. So yeah, I decided this is a great idea. So I researched the topic, and I decided this is what I'm going to do. And I thought these cars should be electric. I thought at some point they're going to be autonomous, but at least from the start they will be electric. So while researching what it goes into building a car sharing fleet and running a car sharing business with electric vehicles, I figured I'll be doing this in Sofia, in Bulgaria. We didn't have an EV charging network to use, so we would have to build EV charging networks. So I went to talk to hardware manufacturers, and I thought I'll be buying EV charging stations so that I can use them with my fleet. And when I asked them about how I'm going to connect the chargers to my car sharing software, I didn't get very good answers until eventually I stumbled to a software company from Austria that actually was building the EV charging management software. And I was like, why do you need an EV charging management software? I have the hardware, I have my car sharing. I should be able to connect the hardware somehow. Well, it turns out EV charging is way more complex than what I thought. And I got to dig deeper into that. And more I realized it's actually a very underappreciated topic and space, which has a lot of complexity. You have physical devices, so you have the IoT component, you have the energy management component, you have all these billing and the whole AI operations aspects to it. It's an interesting intersection between transportation and energy. And yeah, the more I got to understand the space, the more I got excited. And eventually, I actually pitched to my co-founder the idea, we should be doing actually an EV charging management software. So let's do what we know how to do, build a software product. And yeah, with some research, we ended up with a thesis of building a platform that others can use to run an EV charging business.
And you dropped then the car sharing part.
Yeah, I didn't get to have a car sharing fleet after all, but yeah.
Fair. And so the beginning was, it is always and usually in business is a different story than what it is now. So maybe you can also give how it's changed from the initial idea to today, or did it at all actually?
Yeah, it's for us it changed a lot because it started with let's start a car sharing business to let's build the software platform that would manage EV charging networks. So it was a huge change from one idea to another. But once we settled on the EV charging space and did our research, we had a very specific idea of what we are going to be in this space. And to be honest, we haven't changed that a lot since then. So the way we looked at it was, we tried to imagine how this space would look when there are no more doubles to happen. I'm thinking this is an emerging market. So in an emerging market, until the market settles, until you get to become mainstream, you have multiple doubles to do. So every double comes with change of technology, business cases, business models. So things look very different. But once it settles, you want to understand what the market looks then. And we figured it would be a market which would be relatively consolidated. We don't see that there would be like thousands of EV charging networks in any given market. But it wouldn't be so consolidated that it's only companies doing fully vertical. If I make a parallel to car sharing, I don't think I think it would be much more consolidated. And this means it makes much more sense to do fully vertically integrated, build your own software, even build your own hardware, and run your car sharing business. I think this is where Tesla is going. This way probably Waymo is going. But in EV charging, I think there will be just enough fragmentation to justify a common platform that can be used by the actors in this space. And so we ask ourselves, what would be this platform when the market matures? And we went back from there. So if we need to get there in like 15, I mean, we thought it would be 15 years. Now I think it's 15 years from now. So, but if we go back from this point, how do we get there? What are the paths we have to follow? And we started with something that's marketable, and we climbed up to the point where we wanted to be, where we sell to the ICP that we envisioned would be our ideal customer eventually.
Got it. And I also read or learned that you were an outsider in the industry and this was hard for you in the beginning to get really hold of the basics and getting to understand really how the market vibe was. How did you go about that to get really knowledgeable about the market?
Yeah, we were absolute outsiders. I mean, when you think about it, I'm starting this from Sofia. This is at a time where we barely had any EV charging networks there. So I didn't have a chance to base this on my own experience. I had no previous experience in the energy space, transportation space, infrastructure. So I mean, I'm coming entirely from the software space with zero connections or experience in what I'm going to do in EV charging, which is great because I have no baggage. That's absolutely. I mean, I'm a blank slate.
Just to be clear, nobody, because you were, I think, 6 as well, co-founders.
Yeah, we were 6 co-founders.
Nobody had.
Out of 6 co-founders, just to paint the picture, I mean, it's me and my CTO, and then another friend of ours who is our chief commercial officer. So he comes from selling enterprise software. And then the other 3 are engineers, software engineers. Really no experience in what we are going to be building. Other than, I mean, we know how to build software, but that's what we know. We don't know anything about the space that we are going to be building this software for. So no preconceptions, a blank page that we can fill in only with the right things if we have the luck to learn the right things. So we had to become insiders. From outsiders, we had to become insiders. And the way we did it, our first year was 2019. We went to all events that we can find to go to. Some actually were quite far-fetched and didn't move us that far. I mean, we even went to one of the first events we went was actually in Dubai. So again, not the place to learn from in EV charging, but I mean, it actually helped us paint a picture as well. But yeah, it took a lot of conversations with people that are already doing something in this space, and a lot of critical thinking so that we can filter out someone else's preconceptions. And I mean, we've gotten a lot of advice that we didn't follow, and I think we were right not to follow.
But do you have an example in mind?
I'll give you an example. I mean, a friend of mine early on, I don't know if it was 2019 or maybe it was probably 2019 that happened. We met Thomas Diber, and he was just stepped off the role of CEO of Hubject, and he gave us amazing insights. He was so generous with his time. He invited us to Berlin, had a full-day workshop with us to help us hone our proposition, and generally, I mean, our business model and strategy and so on. But mostly, I mean, although again, amazing insights, super generous with his time. But the one thing he told us, guys, you're entering an already crowded space. Very little room for differentiation, and go do something else. I mean, focus on fleets, for example. I mean, that was one of the ideas. Because I mean, what you're trying to do, you would have to outcompete people that are doing it already and are doing it very well.
That was in 2019.
I think it was 2019. Yeah, and that was one advice we didn't follow. But if I knew what he knew, and I was advising these two guys from Sofia, I'll probably give them the same advice. So again, it was everything else that we learned from him. It was so helpful, and we incorporated. But we didn't follow the advice, and we pushed through.
Good example. And I like Thomas as well. He was a podcast guest as well. For those that want to listen,
he's amazing.
Very good insights. But indeed, yeah, that's a very I think insightful point to say that once you're an outsider, you are free to just be naive and also challenge preconceived notions. I
think this naivety is a very important aspect of entrepreneurship. I mean, very often it's the naivety, not knowing why this wouldn't work, so you make it work. I probably, with everything I know today, if I go back to 2019 and I have to formulate a plan of what we're going to do, I'll be crazy to do exactly what we did and hope that it will work out. But yeah, I didn't know that back then, so... Yeah.
And do you remember on the flip side something that was given to you as advice that you cherish a lot, that was super useful, that you actually implemented then?
I don't know. There's probably. I mean, there's things that are details, but all of them stack up for sure. I can't pinpoint a specific one, but we learned a lot from talking to people, and that's the only way we could do it. We had to tap into someone else's knowledge, and then stitch these things together so that we can formulate our own thesis and plans. And yeah, we tried to show progress as soon as we had some, even if it's just mock-ups of something, so that we can get instant feedback, be it from customers or insiders. And this guides us on figuring out how to do it.
And the best event that was the most useful to you in that time, was it the ICNC that you're back here, or was it another one?
I think there's 2 events that really made a difference for us. One was actually the first industry event that we went to was Move it was in London. It was 2019 as well. And I think it was in March. So we started the company in October 2018. In March, we went to Move. We went there as with a startup tickets or something, a startup booth. Like, I mean, you have this line of 1 meter booths with a poster there. Yeah, exactly. And so what we didn't have was any budget to spend. What I had was 5 more co-founders, so 6 founders. I made sure we rented an Airbnb, and we just went all 6 of us there. So I mean, if you can't show much more than this, I mean, just show numbers, so that we can have more conversations. Because in the end, it was about, we are still at a phase where we had something to show, but it was mostly mock-ups and early version of the software. And mostly we needed feedback and we needed to learn. And there's just that many conversations you can have as a single person. So I brought everyone, and it was amazing. And this is the event where we met one of our first quite signature customers. We didn't sign them then, but we got them excited then. They were an exhibitor and a sponsor, and they got excited by what we showed them. And a year later, at the same event, we signed the contract. I mean, it was symbolic. I mean, we signed them like a month earlier, but on paper we signed it.
So that was the first.
That was the first one that made a difference. And the second one was the first ICNC that we went to, which really the value that we got out of it, in the form of conversations and insights, it really accelerated us.
Nice. And so the first customer was really then also that one from the Move event, yeah?
They were not the first customer, because in the meantime we signed a few other customers, but they were the first in the UK of significant size and an important logo, and they helped us also develop the platform in a direction that made it suitable for others like them.
And usually it's difficult to find the first ones. What was the process to convince those that obviously ask the question, where have you done it before? How did you show the advantage enough?
Just think also that what we are selling is at the core of your business. So it's the one thing that can't fail.
Right.
And it's the one thing that you connect everything else to. And you buy it from a company that's a startup from Bulgaria. So, I mean, think about how difficult of a sale this is. So we didn't have any traction or proof points So it had to compensate with value. It was about how much better it is for the use cases that you need to solve. And we just tried to make sure it's so much better that you have to make a compromise with everything else. Because I mean, again, it's a core platform, business critical one, and it's from an company that doesn't have the track record to prove that it's solid and reliable.
And now, taking a step back or getting to the meat of the issue, so to say, I know talking to investors personally as well, people are not so familiar with the space and it's a complicated one, as you already pointed out as well. So how do you explain what is the problem you're solving with your company and what is your company about in simple terms for the listeners that might not be in the deeds of all this jargon, CPMS, MSPs, etc.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, by the way, this is why probably we didn't do so well on the first round of financing that we were seeking, because I never was able to explain what we do in simple terms. Yeah, but I think with core vertical software, it's sometimes like this, because you're not doing one thing, you're doing a lot of things that are purposely built for a specific industry very well and very well integrated together, and the value comes from that. Because otherwise, I mean, and many of our early investors that I talked to, they wanted to hear what's the secret sauce, what's the one thing that people are buying our software for.
The USP.
And that's the thing. They're not buying it for one thing. They're buying it because it's a lot of things that work very well together and that fit their use case. But in essence, I mean, what we're doing, it's a vertical software for EV charging networks. That's the software, the one software they definitely use, and they may use others. But this is what connects their chargers, their users, their partners, their billing, this is their operations. This is the operating system of an EV charging network. That's what we are doing.
Yeah, and just making it simpler. What is the problem really? And that you're solving with this software that a charge point operator
Let me come back to the example of my question to how do I connect your charger to my EV from my car sharing software. The problem is you don't. You need a system that has the charger connected that acts as this operating system. And the problem is, I mean, there's no EV charging network that doesn't have such software. So it's not a problem like, I mean, I need to know that my charger is online. Yeah, that's one thing it's solving if done right. But I mean, that's not the problem you come with. I mean, if you want to run any business in EV charging, you need a software management platform like ours. Yeah. So that's a great place to be as well, because I mean, this is a software that you don't throw out. You may switch, but you don't give it up. Like, I mean, if you're doing SaaS and it's optional, I mean, if you're selling to enterprises something that they can use or they cannot use, that's one thing. If they have to replace it because their business doesn't exist without this software, your stickiness is much higher.
Mm-hmm. And just to break it down, you would agree with me, right, that the core problems and the solutions you're bringing is, on the one hand, if you don't have a connected charger or a software to manage, you risk the charger not to be usable, you cannot accept payments, you cannot bill as you need to, you cannot manage a load. That's the problem.
In reality, that's not even a question to whether to consider. If you're going to run a business in EV charging, you have to have the charger connected, because otherwise, again, you don't know if it's online. You can't say who can charge, who cannot charge, on what price to accept this payment. So none of this is possible. So it's not so much of a question, do I or do I not? It's a matter of what software do I use to manage my charging network? Right.
So just to also give a bit of the listeners a size, maybe you can complement. So I think you are now at the Series B stage, the latest round.
Yeah, last year we raised our Series B round. So this was a $26 million US investment. And previously in total we've raised like, I think 43 million.
That's quite a lot, yeah. And you are a company of how many people right now?
We are nearing 200 people at the moment.
And I've seen like the latest 60 countries already, right? You're operating?
We're in more than 60 countries, pretty much every continent where there are cars. There's a customer using our software to charge EVs. Our market is I mean, still the biggest concentration is Europe, like 60% is Europe, but we have customers in Australia, New Zealand, or in North America, but even customers in Africa, and it's not in South America as well. So it's quite well spread out and used in a lot of countries.
So that's quite impressive. And how would you explain as well the scaling that you did in these years, and what convinced so many people to adopt your solution? What was the...
Well, one thing is, it starts with the strategy. We decided that we are only going to build the software platform that others use on the ground, I mean, in specific market to run their business, which meant that we don't have to be in this market in order for our software to be applicable to this market. We just needed to make sure that it works for whoever's doing business in this market. So when we signed, actually one of our first customers was in Taiwan. They came to us it was around Christmas 2019. They visited us in Sofia and we signed there. We didn't have anyone in Taiwan. We didn't have any marketing to this region. But the software was applicable because we made sure that we build a platform that is not tied to a specific market or specific geography. And this means that we just need to find the companies that would use our software to run an EV charging business in these markets, which makes it easier compared to having to actually be present in a market, like building your own network there, or even if you're providing more of a service, like if you're going to individual site hosts, so like a hotel, and you want them to, buy charging stations and let's monetize them through our platform. You have to have at least sales there, but probably some field service and support and so on. We don't go there. We sell to whoever's going to sell to the hotel. And with this strategy, it was easier for us to find the customers that actually then build out the network. So to give you some idea about the scale, our customers today operate around 200,000 charge points, but this is spread between around 180 customers. So we only had to sell to 180 customers in order to have 200,000 chargers on the platform.
Got it. Yeah, and so just also to make sure I understood, so all these aspects when a charger failed and so on, that was basically not handled by you, that allowed you as well to scale faster, because that would be handled by somebody else if you don't have to have a local presence too much.
Exactly. Our job is make sure that the software would detect this and notify them and give them ways to troubleshoot. But then the actual service is provided by the charging network.
But then there is also one key aspect that maybe I'm not as knowledgeable. Is the billing and payments aspects. I think that also quite highly depends on every geography. Isn't there a hurdle to scale that fast? Or?
That's one aspect where you have to adapt to geographies and to different markets. This is why early on we are not processing the payments directly. We are making it possible for our customers to process payments. We started with, very early on, we had like almost 10 different payment processors for different markets. And today we have around 40 different ways to process payments. Sure. And we have integrations with invoicing solutions for different markets so that we can cover these aspects. But in the end, the seller, the merchant, is our customer. So we make sure that our software makes it easy for them to accept the payment, to do the accounting, payouts and so on when payouts are involved. But we are not the party doing this. So we don't have to be registered in a country and pay taxes in a country in order to sell there, because it's our customers selling there. We just have to make sure that the software supports them. And I say it's not like it's a very easy thing to do, because it really increases the complexity when you have to do it for so many markets. But it's easier for us to scale the software than to scale the people in different markets and the operations in different markets.
So in other words, you made the variables accessible to the merchant, and then he takes care that it complies with the local regulations.
Well, right? we go as far as to make sure that they comply. But it's not us actually issuing the invoice. It's our software that issues the invoice, but the name on the invoice is the name of the company that's our customer.
Makes sense.
But we do make sure that it's compliant. We have a team that's following. Their job is to study regulations and how they apply to the businesses of our customers, so that we can build it into the software. But in the end, it's our customer that's the one doing business in these different markets.
Got it. And you're based out of Bulgaria. Do you see a strategic advantage of being based there or coming from there?
Yeah, the most strategic advantage is that the founders are there. So, I mean, that's, joking aside, it's in the beginning, this what played a role was that we have access to talent. And at some point, at certain scale, you actually get limited because, on the other hand, the market is not that big. So, I mean, you had access to talent when you need 10 people, but when you need 100 people with a particular skill set, then you're better off seeking for this talent in a bigger market. But for the start, it was an advantage. But it's mostly where we started from. It's not something that if I have to choose where to start a business, I wouldn't specifically go and start it in Sofia with what we're doing. But this is where we were. And we made it work.
The origin story, yeah. And you don't have the team all there. You have more distributed team, or how is the company structure, and what your view for the future is?
Well, when COVID hit and the first lockdown hit, we were 16 people, and 2 years later we were 40-something people. So between the different times of lockdowns, we had to grow the team fully distributed. So we built the whole company in a way that it works remotely. So even though I say a lot of the team is in Bulgaria, they're not really in Sofia, because in Sofia's office we have like 50 people coming to the office out of 150, 117 in Bulgaria in total. The rest work from home, from other locations in Bulgaria. We have a couple more offices. And we also have people in other places. We have people in the UK, in France, in the States, in Netherlands. So yeah, I mean, we're not really tied to one location. The company has been built in a way, and also by necessity, because again, we built it that way because we had no other option. But because we built it that way, this now allows us to hire where we find the talent rather than have to find the talent in a particular location.
And how do you make of one key advice when starting a company that one gets is focus on a specific market, a specific region, a specific use case, but it seems like you didn't follow that advice, or you at least proved that it can work with even scaling very, very fast to so many different geographies. What's your thinking behind that? Yeah.
Well, part of it comes from the fact that we had no other option but to choose a market that is not our local market, because our local market doesn't exist. So
easy choice.
Yeah, easy choice. But then the second part is we were looking again at how does this market that we are entering look when it matures? How many of these platforms would there be? And I don't think there'll be that many. I think there'll be probably one dominant, two more that are significant size, and then some very niche ones. And my job is to figure out how do we get to be the one dominant one. And I don't think it would be a local one. I don't think it would be one that's built for Germany or one that's built for the UK market. So from the start, we had to build the platform that would be the one dominant platform for this when the market matures. And this one would be used in all kind of markets. So we decided, let's learn from these markets early on so that we don't close off our platform or tailor it too much to a specific market, because especially in emerging technology, sometimes the advancements don't come from the most from the markets that are first getting to maturity, or right. At least, I mean, to early adoption. Because I mean, none of the markets in Europe have reached maturity, even in the Nordics, still yet to get there. But a lot of the things that early on define the market later get disrupted. Because, I mean, if I get back to these doubles, I mean, when you have multiple doubles to do any new double, this is a significant increase. It allows for new things to outpace old things.
Just so the double concept, because I'm not sure I understood
the thing about the doubling is this: if your market doubles in size.
The market doubles in size, yeah.
When a market doubles in size, this means that if you hold a certain market share with a certain type of business model, and the market doubles in size, someone else who has just started with a disruptive business model, they can already outpace you just because the market allows them to grow. So you don't lose market share, you don't lose business, but you lose market share because the market grows so significantly. So when you have this rapid increase of the market, you have to be nimble and you have to be able to adapt because it's still not settled. It's still not clear what's working. And we thought there'll be markets that may not be, I mean, if we focused from the beginning, say on Germany or UK or the Nordics, we'll be missing out on things that may actually define the future of this space because we are not in these emerging core markets, which may skip steps. It has happened in communications. It has happened in pretty much every other technology. Markets that are later to start, they may skip steps. They may not have the sunk cost, and they may actually advance faster at the later stage. As long as there's more growth to happen, you don't want to miss out on these opportunities. And this is what formed our thinking, and this is why we started from the beginning and continue to be quite spread out in terms of where we sell. And it's not an easy thing to do, because I mean, it's much easier to focus on use cases and markets where you already have concentration. And when you put more focus there, you're more competitive and you get more of the existing business. But in the long term, this may actually be the wrong play. And we believe the right place for our particular business is to go this more broad, multi-market approach. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, just maybe for the listeners, very quickly. So there's like different key market players, and then I explained this so that you can give your view. So there's the charge point operator that operates the chargers. Then there's the MSP, mobility service providers, that has the payment cards that they use usually, or the payment apps that are used to be charging there. And then there's the so-called CPMSs. That's what Ampeco would say is from a positioning that is offering software for the charge point operators. And then there's the roaming hubs that try to connect them all together, like Hubject and the ICNC that we have been dropping as a name that ensures that everybody can talk to each other somehow. So where do you see the market going? And now there's different markets have different split in terms of numbers of these different type of market actors. And where do you, like you said, the 10-year vision, and what's your view on that?
Well, the first thing is that in EV charging infrastructure follows EV adoption. You don't build the infrastructure way in advance. You kind of follow the EV adoption. In some early developments, you may have to build the infrastructure first, but this is very early on. So this is why we had Ionity, and this is why like a fast charging network that was built by a joint venture by automotive OEMs, because you needed some infrastructure in order to foster EV adoption. But mainstream infrastructure is built to be used, and what is using this infrastructure are electric vehicles. So how fast it is developing and in what markets, the pace depends on EV adoption in these markets. So we are looking at, and infrastructure works with a lag. So when you see a drop in EV adoption, so what this means is you're looking at new car sales. How many of those are electric? And when in a market there is a drop or slowdown, you can expect that infrastructure build out will slow down as well. When there is an increase, you can expect that infrastructure will follow. It may take a year to catch up, because infrastructure, it doesn't react at the same pace like consumers do with the
time.
Yeah. But this is what we are looking at. We are looking at in what markets EVs are being sold, at what pace, and this tells us how infrastructure build out would look like. And Europe at the moment, we are just back to an accelerated EV adoption this year. So we can expect an acceleration in EV charging infrastructure build out. US has seen a steadier growth. I mean, they're not growing as fast. So you can expect, again, infrastructure wouldn't be built out at the same pace like in Europe. So this is, and there's other emerging markets, by the way. You have Brazil and Mexico, where EVs are being adopted at an amazing pace, mostly because of Chinese brands who are selling there. Australia as well, and then infrastructure build out follows as well. What we see is that in the infrastructure side, which are the CPOs that you mentioned, these are the charge point operators. So these are who manage the networks. There will be consolidation mostly on the high power charging, where this is a kind of business that resembles the petrol station business much more than other aspects of EV charging, because other EV charging operators like CPOs are parking operators, anyone with a parking space. Because if you can imagine that every car is electric, where does it make sense to charge an electric car? Well, first of all, when it's parked. This is the easiest and most convenience. You don't have to go to a place to charge. If you have to charge your petrol car, you have to specifically go to a place to charge it. With EVs, you're already parking somewhere. So ideally you're home, but not everyone has their own parking space. Plus, some of these EVs would be shared. I hope more would be shared. So you look at where do they spend time, and this is a place where they will be charging. Obviously, when you travel on the autobahn, you would want to have, but this is where it's consolidated and it looks like the petrol station. Everywhere else actually looks more like a parking operator, and it's not just the parking operators that are becoming CPOs. It's anyone with a parking space. It's the retailers. It's the office buildings. It's the residential buildings, and these don't consolidate for EV charging because these are different kinds of businesses. You don't consolidate on the basis that we are offering EV charging just because one is a retail, another is residential, another is an office building. Doesn't make sense. These are very different businesses. So this means that there will be some level of fragmentation in these segments, and as long as the fragmentation is not immense, where there's no reason to at all. Maybe you just partner with another CPO and you don't care. But if you manage thousands of parking spaces, or tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands of parking spaces, you are prime candidate to become a CPO. Mm-hmm. This is why we have, for example, in our portfolio a company called Indigo, which is the biggest parking operator in the world with 1.4 million parking spaces under management. And just in France, they have like 500,000 parking spaces.
They're French.
Mm. And there's Ampeco, for example. They also are a very significant charge point operator. Mm. These type of companies, eventually they're going to in-house. EV charging is going to be part of their business. But same goes for many retailers, for many real estate businesses as well. So we are looking at them as the candidates for a customer for our platform. On the EMSP side, which is mentioned, you have the card, but mostly what you have is the user. So how does a user use EV charging? These are the EMSPs. Well, I believe this would be very consolidated. I think you wouldn't have a very diverse market there. You would have some players that are oriented towards businesses, so they work with fleets, and there'll be more fragmentation there. But for the mainstream consumer, you're probably going to be using something that you're already using for something else, either your navigation app or your payment app. So eventually I see this going towards some of the bigger fintechs and also the big tech. It's Apple, Google. I expect they'll be the biggest TMSPs eventually.
Makes sense, yeah.
And we don't sell to those. I think it's too consolidated for them to have to use someone else's platform. Mm. But on the CPO side, this is what our market is.
Interesting, yeah. And I think Germany, if I'm not wrong, you might know the numbers better than me, has one of the largest number of CPOs in the world.
Right? It's interesting because here, there's probably a reason Thomas was advising us against it, because there's also the biggest number of softwares for CPOs as well, because almost every utility has their own charging network, and you have too many utilities. So
yeah, right. That's the legacy reason.
Yes, but it was also one of these early market things where there's a lot of activity early on, which doesn't follow the rules of a mature market. So I expect there'll be a lot of consolidation happening in Germany on the CPO side as well. So I don't think the market would look that fragmented. So I wouldn't be basing my prognosis on the level of fragmentation on Germany. I think actually Germany is a market is going to see a lot of consolidation on the CPO side.
Which market do you think it will more be like the UK that has, I think, a few dozen or so?
Yeah, I would look at France, UK, Netherlands because of the how far ahead they are in terms of the number of charge points. UK and France because they were a little bit later in the game, but I think they're more telling for the market dynamics of a maturing, not a mature market, maturing market.
And what do you make of China, the big elephant in the room? I think in the West we don't touch too much. Is it one of the 60 countries, or do you think it might be a good, attractive market for Ampeco as well?
Oh, China is just, is by far the biggest market. It's bigger than all of the rest in terms of EV charging. I wish we were able to tackle China, but for now we're staying away. One thing about China is obviously it's a very different market. It's very consolidated, by the way, and much more vertical integration there than what we're seeing in other markets. But also when it comes in general about SaaS businesses and vertical SaaS, it's very difficult to do any vertical SaaS in China from outside China. For once, if you really want to run a SaaS business in China, you have to run it on servers in China.
Right.
You have to give access to the government to your source code, and you can't access it from outside China. So if I was to run what we're running an Ampeco software in China, I wouldn't be able to support it from Europe. I would have to only technically I don't have access. That's how it works. So it's very restrictive to outsiders especially when it comes to vertical SaaS. Because if you're doing something mainstream like a social media, you can access just because the numbers justify. But when you're doing vertical SaaS like we do, we still would have like hundreds of customers there to run. They would be significantly bigger than what we have in other markets, but it would be very difficult for us to justify all these operations in the beginning. As long as the other markets have sufficient growth and volume, it's much easier to stay away from China.
Makes sense. And one thing that I also find quite interesting in this industry is the fact that there are also certain countries in developing countries that are leapfrogging as well, that are really boosting their EV adoption, like Brazil, Thailand, Ethiopia. And others, like what's your take on the developing countries as markets for EVs and for charging businesses?
Well, for them, today's leapfrogging is mostly accelerated because they've let in the Chinese manufacturers of electric vehicles.
BYDs everywhere.
Yeah, and as I said, in the end, EV charging follows EV adoption, and when you have EVs, when people are buying EVs, they have to charge them somewhere, and businesses then take on to build the infrastructure that's needed for this. So all these countries with high volume of citizens, I wouldn't say cars even today, because in many cases EVs can acquire new type of customer that before didn't drive an EV. They may be driving a two-wheeler. Still maybe an EV, but not a four-wheeler. They may be driving a two-wheeler, or maybe they didn't have a car. But now the entry barrier is very low, because it's not just the purchasing price of these Chinese EVs, it's also the maintenance cost of this. And in many of these countries, the electric cars now are making it more affordable to own a car in general. And they're just expanding the markets for cars in general. I think a lot of those are going to be leapfrogging, as they are actually, just because they don't have any industry to protect, old industry to protect.
Right.
And because also they're tapping into new customer base that previously may not have even bought a car or may not have considered to buy a car.
And so when you try to convince new CPOs to work with you, or your salespeople rather try to convince them?
I'm still doing a convincing myself.
You're doing same sales
yeah.
in your day-to-day? Okay. Yeah, it's especially, but when it's so big CPOs, I guess for the larger accounts, even the CEO takes ownership. So what is typically the USP or the killing argument where they decide to go for Ampeco?
Well, there's a few things that we didn't have before, which today are a very strong selling point. One is we now have the proof points that it is one, if not the most robust and dependable platform on the market, which is of huge importance, especially now in a more mature market where the customers are more demanding, the regulators are more demanding, everyone's more demanding because they expect this industry to be mature, even though it's still in its teenage years. And you now really need a robust solution because this is the backbone of your tech stack. And now we have the proof points that ours actually is the one that excels at this. Yep. But then what really sells it that I'll go back to strategy, and it resonates very well with our customer base. We are only successful if they're successful. We are purely the software platform. We need them to be successful, to do their rollout, to be successful in their business. There's no conflict of interest. There is a huge alignment, which means that we are putting our resources where it makes sense for them. We are not locking them. We are enabling them. We are giving them the flexibility where they need, whether they need to, maybe they don't want to use our white label mobile app. That's great. We make it very easy and actually help our customers to build their own app, because this way they'll be more successful, they'll be installing more chargers, they'll be the consolidators, not the ones that get acquired. And this level of alignment, which is backed by where we put our focus on the product development side, this is what resonates very well with the largest and most ambitious CPOs.
Makes sense. And one trend I think that you also trying to lead at is that the future is not building everything in-house, but orchestrating the best specialists in the market to achieve this reliability and profitability and the seamless user experience. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is something that other industries have gone through, from building everything to actually focusing on what's your differentiation, what's the core value that you're bringing, instead of just trying to do what everyone else has to do anyway. In the EV charging, for example, well, everyone has to be able to manage chargers from different brands, to be able to monitor them, to be able to set the price, to be able to monetize them. These are not things that create differentiation. So you have to figure out where is the differentiation created from. Maybe it's in my site selection. If you're a parking operator, it's about the seamless experience between parking and charging, and the locations that you have. If you're an infrastructure a player, well, this is about, again, where are the sites that I built? How accessible are they? How good is the user experience on the site? Focus on these things, and when you put your resources there, this focus really creates an immense pushing force. Instead, if you have to build everything else that others have to build as well, you're distracted and you're wasting your resources on things that are already solved, but then you're solving them again, reinventing something that's already invented.
Updating the standard and so on.
So orchestrate the best solutions and build only the thing that really is your differentiation. This is the message that we have. And our platform is the best orchestration platform. It solves the common, it integrates very well with the best-in-class solutions that you want to use, and it leaves you to focus on the things that are your differentiation.
And also, I think adding on that, you mentioned on one post as well that the CPOs are drowning in vendor management, and that hardware comes from one supplier, payments, EMS from a third, analytics from a fourth, and so on. So that's the opportunity is to have a platform that orchestrates it also in a cohesive ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, I think that generally CPOs are drowning in complexity. Doesn't necessarily mean that they should use fewer vendors, but they shouldn't be forced to use a specific vendor just because they have a gap. They have to be able to choose the best in class that actually gives them an advantage. And I think this is what we're trying to do. I mean, for example, we have in our platform features that we are very proud of and I think work very well. Like we have our own built-in energy management, but at the same time, we also make sure that our customers can connect other energy management systems that are just better for their use case than our, more off-the-shelf or universal solution. And it's to their benefit to use, in this case, more vendors. I mean, they would use another vendor for something that's very specialized and that does the job better than something that for everyone else, I mean, for someone that occasionally would have to comply to something or to just win a customer, they need to do something in energy management. Well, yeah, our solution is amazing for them. It comes out of the box, use it. But if this is something that is a strong part, a significant part of your value proposition, use the vendor that's going to give you the best chances to win. So.
Makes sense, yeah. And you also talk a lot about the API first approach versus white label. Can you also elaborate on these two aspects and how they are applicable to your customers?
Yeah, early on when we started, we were very strong on the white label marketing messaging, just because this was what the customers related to in the beginning. But in reality, it's the API first approach is. It's like a service that you can peel off. Like you start with what gets you ahead in the beginning, but then when you're ready, when it makes sense, you can peel off parts of it. Like for example, with our EMSP app, as I mentioned, our customers usually as the CPOs, but a CPO, but charge point operator, they still often have to have a mobile app for their customers to be able to access their network. They may have, hopefully, direct connections with EMSPs so that you don't have to download their app. But some customers would just want to have the app from the CPO. Well, okay, great, and we have a great white label app. I mean, it's under the brand of our customer. We don't stand in between them and their customer, but it's the universal app. It's the one that has to suit the use case of a German CPO and a French CPO and a UK CPO. If you really want to, it has to work for the one that's working with high power charging and the one that's working with destination charging. But if you really want to tailor the user experience to your specific use case and your more narrow customer base, you have to build your own. So then you can just use our APIs, and we made sure that it's not just possible, it's as easy as possible to do this, so that you can peel off this part of the product, throw it away, and build your really tailored solution that amazingly fits your use case.
And is it like maybe a fallacy in thinking of myself, but CPOs many are like energy companies usually from a background, and they are not the core DNA is not making software. Is that then a challenge for them?
That's true. I mean, it's not just energy utilities. There's others. I mean, some of our customers are in real estate, some of those are parking operators. They're not necessarily software companies.
Right.
So you have to make it easy for them. And yeah, eventually, I mean, if you want to create any differentiation with software, you would have to learn to do it. Why not do it very well with vendors? Because I mean, you don't have to build it entirely in-house, but you have to have someone build it tailored for you. We are not going to build it tailored for them. I mean, our role is to solve the common and give you a very flexible platform, but it's not tailored. And you don't have to tailor everything, because then you have an overhead and maintenance and so on. But there's some parts that are very important. In some cases, this may be the user experience. In other cases, maybe this is how you integrate with the grid. Maybe this is the secret sauce you have as a company. Maybe it's how you manage the locations, and so it's about the asset management. So there are different aspects that for different types of businesses that offer EV charging are the secret sauce, are their main competitive advantage, and this is where they have to find a way to also through software to create a competitive advantage. And they don't have to be a software company. I mean, companies have built great software without being a software company just because they've outsourced it, but you have to know what you're building and for whom you're building. You have to know your business and your competitive advantage, and then someone else can build it for you. But don't expect that you'll get something, put a logo on it, and then it's works perfectly, because how do you differentiate from your competitor who can take the same?
Makes sense. And how do you look at the complexity behind the standards that this industry is facing? There's so many different standards and integrations that will we at some point arrive to an easier time where OCPP versions will not update that often, or ISO 15118 or other stuff?
Well, having started at a time where there was still proprietary protocols to many chargers, I'm happy that there are standards,
right.
Even though they may seem too many. But I think this is a problem that us, the software vendors, have to solve, and the CPOs should be the beneficiary of this solution being already in place rather than having to care for it. So I kind of see this as our role to solve this problem. And part of it is solve it with software. Part of it is solve it through the organizations that we are members of, and that guide the standard setting. But in the end, this is something that's, I think it's quite normal when the industry is growing to have to find the ways that things should work and be wrong sometimes. Otherwise, if you're too afraid not to be wrong, it may take too much time to perfect when it's too late the market doesn't wait for you. So I would much rather have some standards that are imperfect but are in place rather than doing it perfect but too late.
Okay, in this podcast called Smart Charging, so let's talk a little bit smart charging. What's your view on like anything related to smart charging? So dynamic prices, for example, or consuming self-consumed solar energy, or bidirectional charging, and what's the vision you have, and what do you think?
I think here, when you talk about smart charging, we have to consider that we are now just entering the phase when the consumer is becoming. This is the mainstream consumer. So these are the early majority. These are the people who didn't buy an EV because they care so much about the smart charging. Like, I mean, they just think, I mean, now's the time. Yes, I am environmental conscious, but I mean, I will not make compromises for this. It's just another benefit that it's also good for the environment. It's also the cheaper option. It's more convenient option. These are the expectations that we have to work with. And this means that we shouldn't expect customers to go out of their way to do smart charging. So everything, when you talk about smart charging, it has to be smart. It has to happen behind the scenes and be entirely handled by the provider. So don't expect that the user would be scheduling that charging. Expect that they would want the benefit, but not the hassle. So it has to be made convenient, and this is where I think a lot of the experiments that we've seen and we've participated in, they underestimate how important it is to make it convenient for the customer, and they go for the maximum, for the most optimal. Well, you can sacrifice some savings to make it convenient. I'll give you one example with something that we tried with a couple of customers. It was about destination charging, mostly on-street charging, where one of the use cases, people also leave their car overnight. And the idea was to give people the opportunity to let charging be scheduled for off-peak charging. So you plug it in at 7 p.m., but actually we want to charge it after 11 when it's cheaper. So one iteration of this was the user had to choose when they're going to leave, and they had to choose whether they wanted to do cheap or they wanted to do expensive, and it was just no one used it. And then we came up with, we said, let's do it simpler. Let's do an Eco and Boost option. Eco, we decide when the car is going to be charged. So just put a notice there. Your charging would happen with whatever power is available and makes sense. Boost, whatever's available, we'll give it to you. And you either pay a high price per kilowatt, so the Boost is the regular price, the Eco is the low price. The price, you choose it once and it's the same price. So if you choose Eco, you're at the lower price, whatever we charge. The Boost, you're at the higher price, we give you what's available. This was so much easier for the customer, and everyone used it. Not everyone chose Eco. I mean, there are people that just wanted to use Boost, but everyone choose an option.
They all
because
had to choose Ampeco,
very simple. It's very simple, and you don't have to think about it. Okay, I'm flexible, I'll get the low price. I'm not flexible, I'll just charge the regular price.
Right. Yeah, and there's also one Way. I saw that is one of your customers in Norway. They were very excited a couple of months ago. They were like posting about one project. Can you also share a bit more about? I think it was the nodes with the grids.
Yeah, I think it was with the nodes market, but I mean it was something that we did together with Hafslund, a Norwegian utility, and LOA, and we onboarded a significant number of LOAs network to the flexibility market, and allowed mostly to do peak shaving. I mean, it's your trading flexibility. So someone posts a flexibility request, and then you comply with it.
For the local grids, right? Was it?
It was
for transmission grids.
It was not for transmission grids. It's for
the distribution.
For the distribution. But the premise is simple. I mean, people have, in the LS use case, these are housing associations. People that have their vehicles charged overnight, and usually they need a couple of hours of charging and they're connected for 8 hours. So when these 2 hours happen, it doesn't reflect the user experience at all, especially that when you're offering flexibility, you're trading like 10% of the available flexibility, meaning that no one is not charging at any given time. But say, for example, the vehicle is scheduled to charge between 11 and 2 at full power. Well, it's full power minus 10% is what's done in reality. And this, when you aggregate across a huge network with many vehicles connected at any given time, allows you to offer flexibility to the market. Well, maybe someone was supposed to generate some electricity and they can't do it because the weather changed or they have a technical issue. Well, they, instead of paying the fine and the fees, they would pay someone else to actually reduce the consumption. And that's what we can do at scale. And it's not fancy, it's not V2G, it's very simple, but it's very underutilized. I think the greatest benefits to be achieved are in smart charging in terms of scheduling rather than V2G. I think V2G is still too expensive in terms of hardware, in terms of onboarding even. We still have this uncertainty from the customer. Well, what happens when you're discharging my battery? I mean, does this affect the longevity? We are not doing enough in just scheduling in a smart way, and there's so much potential there.
Right. And what is the so you mentioned a couple, but so next to the UX and the customer experience and make it simple, and the cost for V2G, is there any other challenges you see, especially to make the scheduling or the V1G or smart charging possible at scale, and then also V2G or bidirectional charging at scale challenges?
I think one thing is there's not enough markets because no one has onboarded the vehicles in a massive way. Because I mean, the market exists when there's the both sides to trade. So in flexibility, you need to know that you can trade flexibility. I mean, if there was no one to fulfill flexibility, why bother to register your flexibility request? So I think one thing that has to be, we have to figure out how do we solve this chicken and egg problem. Maybe we should just start onboarding all possible use cases for smart charging so that on the markets that exist, because this would probably also create new markets and also pull in participants that need this flexibility, but until now they haven't been active on these markets. Because in the end, it's about balancing, and you need the two parties. We have the vehicles, we are not really exposing them as a resource that can be managed in that way. If we do, I think the need would, this will create the opportunity for other market entrants.
Okay, and then we're coming to an end here. So looking forward in the vision and in your next few years, so to say, you have an ambitious, I think, vision to be having, I think, 25% of market share within the segment of charging backends, right? So what do you foresee as the biggest challenges to get there?
Well, first of all, I would say that, I mean, we only care about market share when the market settles. So when we are at 50+% of EV charging infrastructure built out, this is where you count the market share. Because until then, you can get to a market share and then just be stuck there and be outpaced by someone growing with the market while you stagnate. But what we're looking at is, mostly we're looking at every decision that we're making, we're looking at, does it close the road to this dominant position? And if it does close the road, we don't do it. It's much more difficult to choose the right path, but it's relatively easy to identify a path that doesn't bring you to where you want to be. And at the same time, it's very tempting sometimes to take this path because it can give you in the shorter term growth that otherwise would be more difficult to achieve. Like, for example, if we are to enter the market in a more direct way, especially in markets which are more already more dense, well, we can grow faster, but then we'll be in competition with some of our customers. And will you be the dominant platform if you're competing with your customers? Well, you won't be. So we're not doing this. And this is how we gauge every decision. What we intend to do in the next years is we intend to work more with the ecosystem so that we can bring more value to our customers by being better integrated, working better with the other vendors and providers that can help our customers foster and achieve their goals.
Achieve the value.
This is going to be the leading team for us in the next 2 years.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, and what are other innovations that excite you that will come in the future of the industry that you're looking into, thinking also things that are very much seem far but are still quite near, like autonomous driving or I don't know, other types of...
Well, there's two things that I'm very keen to see. One is wireless charging, and it goes with smart charging, because I think this would really unlock smart charging. Because if you can tap into the vehicle when it's parked, people don't go and plug in their vehicle. They don't have to charge it. But if they just park it there and it's already connected to the grid, this really would unlock the opportunities for smart charging. So I really want to see this happen, but it's a far-fetched thing. I mean, it requires both the automotive OEMs, hardware manufacturers, and infrastructure to work together on common standards and technology. And I think it's something that we wouldn't see that soon. But I'm very excited for it to happen, and I'll be very happy if I'm wrong and it actually happens sooner. The other thing is, in user experience, I really want to see plug and charge be widely adopted. Its current form may not be the perfect one, but I mean, it's better than having to do apps or struggle with RFID cards. I really want to see this seamless experience where you choose your subscription and then you just go to a charger and plug in.
Yeah.
So these are two things that I'm really looking forward to. One is from the perspective of how much value we can unlock with the wireless charging together with smart charging in vehicle to grid integration. The other is just from pure user experience, which I think would benefit the EV adoption in general.
Okay, and is there a last message you would like to leave users and how people can get in touch with you, for example?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn on how you can get in touch with me, but my message is mostly to anyone that's hesitant about EVs to know that things are changing every year very quickly, so your preconceptions may be outdated already. So don't wait.
Yes, for sure. All right. Thanks a lot, Orlin.
Thank you.
What a fascinating discussion has been with Orlin about his entrepreneurial experiences from a teenage, almost dropout, to starting several companies, in particular working on others' ideas with a partner that he has been working on since he has been a teenager, and then finally working on e-mobility on his own idea, and not only starting his own idea, but also making it a great success. And this story is just very impressive, from the beginning of being an outsider and just working his way through this industry to then being able to bootstrap and scaling then with a lot of traction worldwide, and that not only in one country, in a few countries and in a row, but really above 60 countries all over the world, which is more impressive. His ambitious attitude is really highlighted as well in his vision, where he wants to be the dominating player in this very hard market. Difficult to understand from CPOs, MSPs, and so on, that he broke down for us and really showed us as well what the role of the future payments will be and how he positions his companies to be very much an open ecosystem, working with specialized players like, for example, yourself and Ridergy, and how he sees fascinating new technologies on the horizon with plug and charge and inductive charging, and how these will be game changers, and his view on the smart charging ecosystem, where I wouldn't disagree that indeed the UX and customer experience just needs to be as simple as possible, like eco boost mode that he was describing, but also starting with V1G before going to V2G, which is indeed still very expensive to operate, unfortunately, in most cases. So, as he said, don't stay stuck with old-fashioned views of the EVs, as things are moving so fast and doubling the market size, as he was adamant in saying. Stay tuned and recommend the episode to whoever you think will like it, and see you soon.